The war in the Middle East still rages on. And while there is a glimmer of hope with hostages currently being released, more and more tragic images are surfacing on social media. If you're on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, you've most likely seen these heartbreaking images and videos. Our kids are also on Instagram and on TikTok, and they too are seeing these images. This week on Legendary Educator, I speak with school psychologist Miriam Burlakovsky Correia about how to help our students cope with the weight of war and the tragic images they are witnessing on social media. The student comes up to you, hypothetically comes up to you and says, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, I don't feel too good. I mean, I'm not happy. I mean, I'm seeing all these things. I don't want to see them, but my dad's watching the news. It's popping up on my social media because my friends are Arabs or Jews or whatever, and it's really getting to me. Yeah, what do I do, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so?"
Well, if it feels right and you have time, you can have a one-on-one discussion. You can have a class-wide discussion, kind of like the one you laid out in one of your episodes. You can also, find a support provider, like a counselor. We have outreach mentors here, or the school psychologist, whatever the protocol is at your school. If that child is not going to access learning, and he or she, they are not the only one, or well, if they are the only ones, then it may warrant a referral in that moment, or it could be dealt with in class. It really depends on your relationship with that student and what's feasible at that time.
This hypothetical situation is based around the idea that the student comes up to you already because they already trust you and they want to talk to you, right? They don't want to go anywhere else. They're coming up to you because there is that relationship that's predetermined.
If you feel like you can handle it in 5 minutes and have a chat and really dig deep, but this sounds like it's deeper than that. It's deeper than a 5-10 minute conversation, it sounds like.
Exactly. And so how do I deal with it as the teacher, as Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so? I mean, what do I do? What do I say? How do I sort of, pat them on the back and say it's going to be okay, but in a more effective way?
If you can direct them to a mindfulness practice. So what are you feeling right now? What is happening right now? Are we at war right now? In this classroom, we'll know. There are no bombs falling. Everyone is safe. Your body is safe. Just describing what is happening, directing them to feel the points of contact between them and the chair. I like to focus on my finger, one finger at a time, pinky finger, ring finger, without moving them. And that really directs your attention. Mel Robbins has a cool little activity, or a little practice that you say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you stop and redirect to something else, whatever that thought process is. So you can have them, if you've taught them ahead of time, you can talk about, tap your prefrontal cortex. Okay, let's get that online because we're feeling a lot of emotions. And in order for us to learn, we need to turn this guy back on. So let's reset and, kiss your brain. Could be that if it's, lower primary, that kind of thing. So if it's going to affect learning for the whole classroom or for a majority of the classroom, I would stop and talk about the elephant in the room. And this has happened for me before, where, a student had a loss and several other students in the classroom were also affected. And we just had to kind of stop what the teacher was doing. The teacher called me in and I had the students do a community circle. We started just talking about how we were feeling. We had them break up in pairs and talk about something very specific and dear to their hearts first, and just in pairs, really listen and be able to reflect back. And then come back together and share about, in a certain format. So when this happens or happened, I feel,
Hmm.
and then because. And so an example might be when I heard that my cousin died, I felt devastated because I want my loved ones to be safe. Having students see each other and hear each other and thank each other for sharing, and show compassion, all of that makes them feel very safe and supported. And then there's a point where you can transition and find a resource. In the trauma community, they call it resourcing, finding something that makes you feel good. So it could be imagining yourself in your favorite place, imagining yourself in a field of grass, under the stars, in an ocean, in the mountains, wherever that that student feels safe, and you prompt them to feel into that area, that experience. So what do you smell? What do you see? What do you hear? Imagine the breeze coming through your hair. Imagine the sun on your skin, and really take them to that place. And that is their resource. That is how they can get out of that trauma response
Hmm.
at the end of it, because we want to end on a high note and be able to transition into learning. So uh, having that resource for them at the end of a circle of sharing, that can be helpful. And it can be helpful for the teacher as well, because they need to transition back to teaching.
And
Okay.
if I teach you, I would love to do this in my classroom, for example, but I don't
Okay.
even know where to start, right? If I'm a teacher who wants to do this, circles
Mhm.
and sort of group meditation, things like that, where would I
Mhm.
go for a resource that's going to show me sort of, teach me step by step a script or scenario situations? Where do I go for these resources as a teacher?
So there's an Institute for Restorative Practices, and they have a lot of resources. I can share those with you and maybe have them tagged in the show notes.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
I'm going to put them in the show notes when I get
okay.
them from you. Yes, thank you. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have a number of practices myself that I can share. The trauma resiliency model, the TRM, CRM, um, is a great resource as well. They have a ton of free resources on their website. They also have training. I like that, making it real.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we do talk about a lot of theory and you give vague examples, and it's like, okay, let's see. Let's see what we're talking about. Give me an example.
Well, no, and the goal of this podcast is to sort of give them something that is implementable, right? I mean, you could take this, copy it, and paste it into your classroom and sort of, go with the flow with it. That's the point of this. And so I love that you've got the resource. I love that this is implementable. I mean, like, and I'm talking about myself. I don't know the first thing about psychology. I don't even understand like my own thing, my
You
own
know more than
emotions.
you think. You
Well,
know more than you
well,
think.
yeah. I mean, I would love to have a safe space in my classroom. I'd love to have these
Mhm.
circles, these discussions, things like that. But I would need a guidance from an expert like yourself, for example. Okay,
Mhm.
do this and then do this and then do this. It's not
Mhm.
that I don't want to, or the passion isn't there, or the care isn't there. I just don't know
Of
where to
course.
begin. And so I'm sort of, I'm identifying with a lot of other teachers out there who are like, I don't even know where to start.